Before a man can ever walk into destiny, he must first confront the battle of identity. This is where most people are held hostage, not by external chains, but by the invisible shackles of who they believe they are. You see, identity is the lens through which you view yourself. And if that lens is cracked, distorted, or foggy, everything about your destiny becomes blurred. Some of you have been carrying names that do not belong to you, identities that were handed to you through pain, rejection, and brokenness. Perhaps it was the cruel word of a parent who never understood your value, the harsh rejection of peers who saw your difference as a weakness, or the internal whispers of failure reminding you of every time you tried and fell short. Those voices attempt to define you, to box you in, to limit the scope of your vision. And yet, there is a voice louder, a calling greater, a truth deeper that insists you were never meant to live in the prison of false identity. The problem is, when you don't know who you are, you will always settle for less than what you were created for. A man without identity will always lie beneath his destiny. You can never walk fully into the promise of your future if you are still shackled to the lies of your past. That's why so many people go through life feeling restless, searching for meaning, trying on identities like clothes that never quite fit. They wear success like a mask, but inside they still feel hollow. They chase relationships, hoping someone else's affirmation will fill the void, but still they are empty. They achieve milestones, reach goals, and accumulate possessions, but still they feel incomplete. Why? Because true fulfillment cannot come from external accolades. It is only found when you discover your authentic self, the person you were divinely designed to be. Identity is the foundation of destiny. If the foundation is cracked, the house cannot stand. If you don't know who you are, then even when destiny calls, you won't recognize your own name. This is why so many are paralyzed when opportunity presents itself. Deep down they say, I'm not enough. I'm not ready. I'm not worthy. They disqualify themselves before life even gives them a chance to try. But what they fail to realize is that destiny is not reserved for the perfect, but for the authentic. It doesn't require that you be flawless. It requires that you be true. There is a war between the version of yourself that the world has tried to sculpt and the version of yourself that was knit together in divine intention. And until you confront that war, until you peel back the false labels and strip away the counterfeit identities, you will live beneath your true potential. Some of you have been called weak when in reality, you carry the strength of a warrior. Some of you have been told you are insignificant, but in truth, you have influence that can shift nations. Some of you have been treated as though you are ordinary when you were birthed with extraordinary purpose. The lie has been loud, but the truth is louder still. Every man who has ever walked into destiny has had to wrestle with identity. Think of the shepherd boy who was mocked for his youth, yet carried the courage to slay giants. Think of the man who was cast aside by his brothers, yet rose to lead with wisdom and vision. Think of those who were overlooked, underestimated, dismissed, yet destiny had already marked them. The struggle of identity is never a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that you are chosen. The enemy only fights what threatens him. If there were no destiny in you, there would be no war over who you are. The warfare around your identity is proof that you are carrying something the world desperately needs. The greatest tragedy is not when a man dies. It is when a man lives his entire life never knowing who he was meant to be. Imagine standing on the edge of destiny, only to be turned back by the echo of lies that said you were not enough. Imagine missing your moment because you could not see yourself the way heaven sees you. That is why this struggle is so critical. Until you win the battle of identity, you cannot step into the victory of destiny. Identity must be reclaimed, redefined, and restored. It begins when you silence the voices that tried to name you, and you listen instead to the voice that created you. You are not defined by the wounds you carry, the failures behind you, or the mistakes you regret. Those things may describe your past, but they do not define your essence. Deep within you, there is a truer self waiting to be awakened. That self is bold, resilient, visionary, and unshakable. That self carries wisdom, influence, and potential far greater than your current reality. That self has always been there. It is simply waiting for you to embrace it. The danger of living without identity is that you will always gravitate toward imitation. When you don't know who you are, you will spend your life trying to become somebody else. You'll compare yourself to others, measuring your worth against their accomplishments, and in doing so, you diminish the unique greatness inside of you. Destiny is not unlocked by comparison. It is unlocked by authenticity. You cannot walk in another man's shoes and expect to arrive at your destination. The journey of destiny requires that you step fully into who you were created to be, unapologetically and authentically. This is the reason identity is under constant attack. Because if the adversary can keep you confused about who you are, he can keep you from who you're meant to be. If he can distract you with lies, he can detour you from purpose. If he can convince you to accept less, he can keep you from reaching more. But the moment you awaken to the truth, the chains fall, the fog clears, and the path to destiny becomes visible. So the question is not whether destiny exists for you. It does. The question is whether you will confront the lies, silence the doubt, and rise into your true identity. Because once you know who you are, no man, no circumstance, no setback can ever take that from you. Once you are rooted in identity, you become immovable, unshakable, unstoppable. Identity is the key that unlocks destiny. And the struggle you are facing now is not meant to destroy you, but to reveal the authentic you that has been waiting all along. Inside every man, there is something greater than what is visible on the outside. Too often, we measure our worth by what can be seen. Our resources, our achievements, our possessions, our status in the eyes of others. Yet true potential does not live in what can be observed. It lives in what has been planted deep within. Potential is not external. It is internal. It is not the product of circumstances. It is the seed of destiny. And here is the truth. Everything you need to become who you were created to be is already inside of you. You do not have to borrow it, beg for it, or chase it. It was placed in you before the foundation of the world. The tragedy is that most people go through life never tapping into it. They live confined to the limits of what they see and what they feel, unaware that something far greater has been placed within them. They see themselves through the narrow lens of their mistakes, their upbringing, their struggles, their failures, and they assume that is all there is. But if you could look beyond your reflection in the mirror, you would realize that there is a giant inside of you. A visionary, a leader, a builder, a dreamer, a world changer waiting to be awakened. Potential is not about what you have done, but about what you can do. It is not about the ground you have covered, but the ground you are capable of covering. The difference between where you are and where you are destined to be is not a lack of opportunity, but a lack of awareness of the power inside of you. Potential is that untapped reservoir of strength, creativity, resilience, and wisdom that lies dormant until you dare to believe it is there. Think about it, a seed does not look like a forest, but within it lies the possibility of countless trees. A stone does not look like a sculpture, but within it lies the masterpiece waiting for the right hands to shape it. A child does not look like a king, but within him lies the authority and influence to lead nations. What is hidden inside of you may not look like much right now, but if you dare to nurture it, it has the power to transform your life and the lives of others. The problem is that most people bury their potential under layers of doubt, fear, and complacency. They tell themselves, I could never do that. I could never become that. I could never rise to that level. They look at the weight of their past and assume it disqualifies them from their future. But potential is not determined by your past. It is determined by your design. You were designed with greatness woven into the fabric of your being. No mistake you have made, no failure you have encountered, no rejection you have endured can strip away what has been divinely placed within you. Unlocking potential requires vision. You must see yourself not as you are, but as you could be. You must lift your eyes beyond the present limitations and catch a glimpse of the promise within. Vision is the spark that awakens potential. Without vision, potential stays buried, hidden, dormant. But with vision, potential begins to stretch, to stir, to awaken, until you cannot stay in the same place you have always been. Unlocking potential also requires pressure. Just as a seed must break through the soil, so must you break through comfort zones, resistance, and challenges. Potential is revealed in the pressing, the stretching, the pushing. You don't discover how strong you are until strength is demanded of you. You don't realize how resilient you are until life knocks you down and you get back up again. You don't uncover how much creativity you carry until you are placed in a situation where you must innovate to survive. Every trial, every challenge, every obstacle is an opportunity to unlock another level of what is inside of you. But unlocking potential also demands responsibility. You cannot expect to access greatness while living carelessly. Potential must be cultivated, disciplined, and stewarded. The talent inside of you will wither if it is never developed. The vision inside of you will fade if it is never pursued. The strength inside of you will weaken if it is never exercised. Unlocking potential is not passive, it is active. You must decide that you will no longer allow excuses, distractions, or fears to rob you of what you carry. There are men who live ordinary lives not because they were destined for mediocrity, but because they never dared to tap into the extraordinary within them. They settle for jobs that pay the bills, but do not fulfill the call. They settle for relationships that pacify loneliness, but do not sharpen their purpose. They settle for routines that feel safe, but do not stretch them into growth. And while they survive, they never truly live. To unlock potential is to refuse to settle, to believe that there is more in you, and to pursue it with relentless determination. Potential is not only about personal fulfillment, it is about legacy. What you carry is not just for you, it is for generations. The wisdom you unlock may guide a child. The vision you pursue may inspire a community. The strength you unleash may break generational cycles. When you unlock your potential, you are not simply elevating your own life, you are opening doors for those who come after you. You become the evidence that greatness can emerge from unlikely places, that destiny can arise from broken beginnings, that purpose can spring forth from pain. So the real question is not whether you have potential. You do. The question is whether you will dare to unlock it. Will you remain trapped by fear, by doubt, by excuses, or will you rise to the challenge and allow what is within you to come forth? The hidden potential inside of you is greater than the visible limitations around you. The only thing standing between who you are now and who you were created to be is the decision to believe in the greatness within. Destiny is not reached through logic, convenience, or predictable paths. It is reached through faith. If you try to map out your future based only on what you see, you will limit yourself to the visible and forfeit the invisible. Sight confines you to the realm of what is possible, but faith transports you into the realm of what is impossible. If you live by sight alone, you will never step beyond the borders of the familiar. But if you live by faith, you will walk into dimensions you never imagined, opportunities you never expected, and blessings you could not manufacture on your own. The human tendency is to rely on sight. We want proof before we move, clarity before we step, certainty before we obey. But destiny does not operate on sight. It demands trust in the unseen. You may not see the road ahead, but faith assures you that the road exists. You may not see the provision, but faith declares it will meet you when you arrive. You may not see the outcome, but faith whispers that the outcome has already been secured. To walk in destiny is to walk by faith, and that means stepping even when the path looks uncertain. Walking by faith requires courage. Faith is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move in spite of it. Faith does not eliminate doubt from whispering in your ear, but it refuses to let doubt control your feet. There will be moments when everything in you wants to retreat, to turn back, to cling to what feels safe. But destiny is never found in the safety of the shore. It is found in the risk of stepping out onto the waters. Faith will always call you beyond comfort zones, because comfort is the enemy of destiny. If you stay where it is safe, you will never see the miraculous. Faith is the currency of destiny. It is what unlocks doors that sight cannot even perceive. Faith is what allows you to invest in a future you cannot see with resources you do not yet have. Faith is what allows you to endure storms because you trust there is calm on the other side. Faith is what enables you to sacrifice in the present because you are convinced of a greater reward in the future. Sight says, hold on to what you have. Faith says, let go so that something greater can be placed in your hand. A walking by faith is not a one-time act. It is a lifestyle. It means choosing every day to lean not on your own understanding, but on the direction of the one who sees the end from the beginning. Sight will show you obstacles, but faith will reveal opportunities. Sight will magnify the mountain, but faith will remind you that mountains can move. Sight will point out giants, but faith will remind you that giants fall. Sight will present impossibilities, but faith will declare that all things are possible. And let us be honest, walking by faith is uncomfortable. It demands surrender. It requires you to release control, to admit that you do not have it all figured out, and to trust a plan greater than your own. It strips away the illusion that you can calculate, manipulate, or orchestrate your way into destiny. You cannot schedule your breakthrough. You cannot predict your promotion. You cannot determine the timing of your next opportunity. But faith assures you that when the time is right, what is meant for you will find you, no matter where you are. Some of you are hesitating right now because you are waiting for absolute certainty before you move. But if you wait for perfect clarity, you will never step into destiny. Faith does not give you the full picture before you start. It gives you enough light to take the next step. Destiny is not revealed in one grand unveiling. It is revealed step by step, decision by decision, act of courage by act of courage. Each step of faith brings you closer, and with every step, more of the path becomes clear. Walking by faith also means enduring the seasons of silence. There will be times when heaven feels quiet, when nothing seems to be moving, when you wonder if you missed your chance. But faith teaches you to trust the silence as much as the sound. Just because you don't see movement does not mean nothing is happening. Seeds grow in the dark, foundations are laid in hidden places, and preparation often takes place behind the scenes. Faith anchors you in those moments, reminding you that unseen does not mean undone. Destiny is not a straight line. It is a journey filled with twists, turns, delays, and detours. Sight will tempt you to quit when the road doesn't look like what you expected. But faith will give you endurance to keep going, even when the terrain is rough. Faith says, keep walking, because the promise is still alive. Faith says, do not give up, because your story is still being written. Faith says, though it tarry, wait for it will surely come. And here is the truth. Every man who ever fulfilled destiny had to walk by faith. They left behind the security of what they knew to embrace the uncertainty of what they could not yet see. They endured ridicule, rejection, and resistance. But they pressed on because they believed in something beyond the visible. And because they believed, they became. Because they trusted, they triumphed. Because they walked by faith, they stepped into destiny that sight alone could never have led them to. Walking by faith is not only about reaching a destination, it is about transformation. The journey itself changes you. With every step of faith, you grow stronger, wiser, bolder. With every risk, your confidence deepens. With every act of obedience, your character matures. Faith not only carries you into destiny, it shapes you into the person capable of sustaining it. Purpose will always pull you out of what is comfortable, because comfort and calling cannot coexist. Comfort says stay where it's safe, where it's predictable, where nothing is required of you beyond the ordinary. But purpose calls you into uncharted waters, into places that stretch you, challenge you, and force you to grow. If you insist on remaining in the realm of what feels easy, you will never experience the fullness of your destiny. Greatness is not born in the safety of familiarity. It is forged in the fire of discomfort. The reason so many men live beneath their calling is not because they lack talent or vision, but because they refuse to leave their comfort zones. They cling to the routines that pacify them, the relationships that limit them, the environments that never challenge them, because change is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Stepping into the unknown is uncomfortable. But purpose is never found in the place where you feel most at ease. It is found where you are most required to trust, to stretch, and to evolve. Living beyond your comfort zone means refusing to be confined by fear. Fear whispers, stay here, don't risk it, don't try. Fear convinces you that failure is fatal, that rejection will destroy you, that uncertainty will consume you. But the truth is, fear is not an indicator of danger. It is often an indicator of destiny. The presence of fear is a sign that you are standing at the threshold of something greater than you. If you never feel afraid, It is because you are still living within the boundaries of what you can control. But when you step toward purpose, fear will always rise to meet you. Because the unknown requires courage. Purpose also demands sacrifice. You cannot carry everything from your past into your future. There are habits you must leave behind, mindsets you must outgrow, and even relationships you must release in order to move forward. Sacrifice is painful because it costs you something familiar, something you've grown accustomed to. But every sacrifice is an investment into destiny. What you give up in the temporary creates room for what is eternal. What you release in obedience positions you for what is greater. If you refuse to sacrifice, you will stay stuck in cycles of mediocrity. But if you embrace sacrifice, you will step into the life you were created to live. Living beyond comfort zones also requires resilience. When you step out of what is safe, you will face resistance. There will be people who doubt you, circumstances that push against you, and moments when you question yourself. The journey to purpose is not a straight path. It is marked with obstacles and opposition. But resilience is what keeps you moving when everything in you wants to quit. Resilience is what allows you to endure the criticism, to weather the storms, to rise after every setback. Without resilience, you will retreat back into comfort the moment it gets difficult. But with resilience, you will press forward until purpose becomes your reality. Comfort zones are deceptive because they feel like protection, but in truth they are prisons. They keep you safe, but they also keep you small. They shield you from risk, but they also shield you from reward. They prevent you from pain, but they also prevent you from growth. You were not created to live locked in the walls of safety. You were created to expand, to rise, to stretch, to multiply. Every time you choose comfort over calling, you deny yourself the chance to discover what you are truly capable of. Purpose always places a demand on you. It asks more of you than you think you can give. It stretches your faith, tests your endurance, and requires your obedience. Purpose is not about convenience. It is about conviction. It is not about what feels good in the moment. It is about what fulfills you in the end. Living beyond your comfort zone means saying yes to the hard assignments, the uncomfortable conversations, the challenging opportunities that require more than you think you have. And in the process, you discover that you are stronger, wiser, and more capable than you ever realized. The truth is, comfort will never satisfy you. It may soothe you for a season, but it will never fulfill you long term. You were created for more than ease. You were created for impact. Deep down, you know it. That's why even when everything looks fine on the outside, something in you feels restless. That restlessness is not a problem to fix. It is a signal that purpose is calling. It is the reminder that there is more in you, and you will never be satisfied until you step into it. Every man who has ever fulfilled his destiny had to leave the comfort of what was known to step into what was promised. They had to leave behind the familiar voices, the predictable routines, the security of the past, and walk boldly into the uncertainty of the future. Their willingness to leave comfort zones is what positioned them for purpose. And the same is true for you. The life you long for, the fulfillment you crave, the destiny you were designed for. It will not be found where you are most comfortable. It will only be discovered when you dare to step beyond the boundaries of ease into the territory of purpose.